Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to Angel Broking Limited Q4 FY21 earnings conference call. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. This conference call may contain forward-looking statements about the company, which are based on the beliefs, opinions, and expectations of the company as on date of this call. These statements are not the guarantees of future performance and involve risks and uncertainties that are difficult to predict. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Dinesh Thakkar. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Good morning, everybody. On behalf of Angel Broking Limited, I extend a warm welcome to everyone for joining us on our earnings call. Along with me, I have Mr. Narayan Gangadhar, our new Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Vineet Agrawal, our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Hitul Gutka, IR Head, and SGA, our Investor Relations Advisors. I trust all of you and your loved ones are safe and are in good health. We have released a detailed investor presentation and a press release to stock exchanges, and we hope you all had a chance to look into it. Let me give you a short overview about Angel Broking, and then Narayan and Vineet will take you through the operation and financial performance. I take this opportunity to introduce to our new Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Narayan Gangadhar. Narayan, MS in Computer Science by qualification, has over 2 decades of global experience leading technology businesses at top-tier Silicon Valley companies such as Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and Uber. He brings with him tremendous amount of operating experience in leading highly disruptive business by driving innovation in product technology, capability building, process automation. I am sure Narayan's vast experience will help the company spearhead to pole position. Coming to the industry, FY 2021 has been a momentous year, with many milestones being achieved. The industry witnessed 35% year-on-year growth in Demat accounts to over 55 million as of March 2021, up from close to 41 million last year. Despite record-breaking Demat accounts being added in FY 2021, equity penetration in India continues to remain low at just 4%. This as compared to China and USA, where penetration is close to 11.4 and 32% respectively, only strengthens my belief that the industry is at an inflection point and is poised to witness robust growth for a long period of time. This journey from 4% to 10+% will largely be driven by digital brokers, including Angel Broking, as we accelerate penetration further into Tier 2, Tier 3 and beyond cities, thus expanding the overall market pie. This strong growth in Demat accounts have also translated into corresponding growth in active client base on NSE, which grew by 75% on year-on-year basis, close to 18.9 million as of March 2021. A significant 73% of this incremental active client on NSE in FY 2021 were by the top 5 digital brokers, with Angel Broking being in the top quartile of this fraternity. Share of top 5 digital brokers in overall NSE active client steadily increased to 47% as of March 2021 from 19% as of June 2019. As a result, share of individual investors in cash and F&O segment has risen considerably over the last 5 years. Amongst the growing digital brokers, Angel Broking experienced strong momentum in FY 2021 and achieved many milestones, some of which are as follows. We clocked our highest ever cross client acquisition in the financial year at close to 2.4 million, a growth of 322% over the previous year, thus more than doubling our client base within a year to 4.1 million. Highest ever quarterly gross client acquisition of 0.96 million in Q4 FY 2021, with March 2021 registering our best ever performance to date. Highest active client base on NSE at 1.56 million as of March 2021, a growth of 171% over corresponding period last year. This translates into 8.3% market share in NSE active client base. Third rank in terms of incremental NSE active client during FY 2021. We managed 5 million trades in a single trading session with an aggregate of 671 million trades during the financial year. Highest ever overall ADTO of over rupees 3.75 trillion in Q4 FY 2021, which has grown exponentially by close to 15x between Q1 FY 2020 to Q4 FY 2021. Highest overall retail equity turnover market share of 20.8 in Q4 FY 2021. During the recent quarters, 90% of our client acquired are under our flat fee tariff plan, which have grown by close to 18x over Q1 FY 2020 to Q4 FY 2021. These flat fee clients continue to dominate our ADTO with a 93% share in Q4 FY 2021. Over the last few quarters, our focus on acquiring younger, tech-savvy digital natives, millennials, Generation Z clients have led to a median age of our client reducing to 30 years as compared to 34 in Q1 FY 2020. Close to 94% of our new clients added in Q4 FY 2021 came from Tier 2, Tier 3 and beyond cities. Our robust AI/ML-led targeted digital marketing efforts coupled with best in the industry digital interfaces and an all-encompassing and extremely competitive tariff structure helped us create a strong foothold in future growth pockets of the country. These achievements were purely on the back of efforts undertaken over the last 4 to 5 years to transform Angel Broking into completely digital first organization, which offers seamless digital experience with strong user-centric features for our clients. Amongst the many initiatives, embedded artificial intelligence and machine learning-based algos across all processes from client acquisition to client engagement and servicing are at the heart of this digital transformation, and the application, while gaining significant momentum, are yielding extremely encouraging results both operationally and financially. Our focus has been on evolving and disrupting the normal way of doing things as we continuously improvise to offer superior client experience. As we continue to grow and attain a stronger position amongst the fintech businesses in India, we realize the need to adopt a formal and more inclusive dividend policy to take care of the interest of our shareholders. Given our asset-light business model and relatively low capex requirement, the business is poised to generate surplus cash. Our endeavor would be to share on an aggregate basis at least 35% of our profit of the business of the financial year with our shareholders on quarterly basis, in the spirit of adopted aforesaid policy. I am happy to share with you that for FY 2021, Angel Broking has distributed an aggregate of 35% of its consolidated profit after tax, spread over 3 interim dividends. We have successfully demonstrated the implementation of our digital strategy over the last 2 years and plan to further augment the same as we move forward to achieve our long-term target of A. Attaining leadership position in the retail broking industry in India, B. Establish substantial client base in technology-led investment advisory business, C. Continue to augment investment to further update and scale up our technology infrastructure, mobile platform, artificial intelligence, machine learning capabilities by embracing new innovative features. D. Capitalize on consistently growing investable wealth in India as we expand our footprint across into the hinterland of the country. In addition to this, the board of directors of company have also approved our proposal to set up an asset management company. Through this vertical, we plan to manufacture product to mobilize our clients' fund into low-cost, passive and rule-based investments. This will further enhance our ability to participate in India's financial inclusion journey. We shall be commencing the process of seeking relevant regulatory approvals earnestly. Last month, we lost our erstwhile CEO, Vinay Agrawal. His passing away at a very young age has been a shock to everyone who knew him. His contribution to angel broking and to the industry at large over the last several years will always be revered by everyone. With this, I request Narayan to give you a brief on his vision for angel broking.
Thank you, Dinesh Bhai. Hello, everybody. It's been just a few days for me into this business, but I feel like I have been a part of this entire journey for a very long time. As Dinesh Bhai has already articulated our key milestones that we achieved in the last financial year, I want to mention that all of this is possible due to his foresight and agility. And that is ingrained in the DNA of every Angelite. Robust digital processes have facilitated us to gain a 17.6% market share in incremental Demat accounts in Q4 of FY 2021, which means 1 out of every 6 Demat accounts which are opened in the country during this period were with angel broking. Now, this feat was achieved due to our extremely intensive and targeted strategies. Our efforts have paid rich dividends as we experienced phenomenal growth of 18x and 12x in client addition from Tier 3 and Tier 2, respectively, over Q1 of FY 2020 to Q4 of FY 2021. We drive client engagement with a strong zeal to educate them on various nuances of the stock market, the unique features of our product and services, along with the latest news on the stock through our digital advisory platform, etc., thus empowering them to make more and more informed decisions. Our growing client base and superior engagement led to a multifold expansion in our turnover market share across all segments from Q1 to Q4 of FY 2021. Our broking platform managed a healthy share of 20.9%, 25.5%, and 16.3% in the retail industry turnover across F&O, commodities, and cash segments, respectively, in Q4 of FY 2021. My vision for Angel is to be India's most largest, most trusted, and most revered fintech company. With the onset of digitization across various industries, I firmly believe that India is at the cusp of a major breakthrough, a major economic breakthrough, and that will experience unprecedented growth going forward. Now, this growth is largely fueled by tech-led innovations across many sectors. The broking industry has adopted digitization of various processes, client acquisition, client advisory, engagement, etc. But as more aspects of this wealth creation industry get digital, I'm firmly convinced that WealthSpec will permanently change the way investing has been done, and Angel will lead this charge. Today, the industry has access to world-class talent, rapidly improving infrastructure, high degree of innovation, and one of the best regulatory frameworks to support future scale and growth. At Angel, we have already embraced this change over the last few years, and our FY 2021 operational and financial results are a testimony to this. We are fully geared to capitalize on the huge growth opportunity of the wealth tech industry with our continuously evolving platform and client journey. Our endeavor is to be the first choice fintech partner for every Indian as they scale their wealth creation journey from start to retirement to beyond. I'm completely convinced that as the industry dawns a new era, angel broking is best placed to garner a significant share. Dinesh Bhai, along with our late CEO Vinay, and score of other angelites, have been working tirelessly to make Angel one of India's best tech companies, being continuously featured as a great place to work over the last 5 years is a validation of these efforts. I now invite Mr. Vineet to take you through our financial performance.
Thank you, Narayan. Good morning, everyone, and I once again thank you all for joining us today. I will take you through the financial snapshot for the quarter and for the year gone by. As explained by Dinesh Bhai and Narayan, we delivered an exceptionally strong performance on all operating parameters, which also translated into strong financial results for the quarter and the financial year. Our quarter 4 performance first. Our quarter 4 performance reflects the strong momentum we have so meticulously built over the last few quarters, and it further strengthens our resolve to enhance stakeholder value as we grow the business profitably. We reported total gross revenues of rupees 4,189 million in quarter 4 of financial year 2021, that is 33% higher over the previous quarter. The peak margin regulations, though, have had some impact on the business, but we have clearly been able to offset that impact with significantly higher client activity. Strong client addition of 960,000 clients coupled with robust growth in turnover at 3.75 trillion, trades aggregating to 218 million, and a fledgling client funding book which clocked a sequential growth of 69% to average at 9.6 billion are some of the key drivers for our financial performance during the quarter ended 31st of March 2021. The quarter 4 financial year 2021 revenue is bifurcated as follows. Gross broking revenue accounted for 68% of our total gross revenues. Interest income, which includes interest on our client funding book and interest from deposits, accounted for 15%. Depository income contributed 6%. Income from distribution of third-party products was 1%, whilst other operating income contributed 9%. F&O, cash, commodity and currency segments comprised of 60%, 33%, 6% and 1% of the gross broking income respectively. After paying commission to our authorized persons, 72% of our net broking revenue was contributed by our direct clients, whilst the balance net broking income was attributed to the clients of our authorized persons. Since we have been adding clients at a very brisk pace over the last 2 years, the net broking revenue share of our clients who are less than 2 years on our platform continues to remain high at about 72% in quarter 4 of financial year 2021, whilst the balance is contributed by clients who have been for more than 2 years on our platform. On net broking revenue under the flat fee plan, continued to witness strong momentum, having grown to a significant 72% of our overall net broking income from 47% in quarter 1 of financial year 2021. At the same time, the share of net broking revenue from the traditional plan in the total revenue pie has been reducing consistently from 50% in quarter 1 of financial year 2020 to 17% in quarter 4 of financial year 2021. Strong activity in cash segment aided 5% growth in our net broking revenue from the traditional plan. Since we witnessed 87% sequential growth in our gross client acquisition during the quarter, there was a corresponding increase in our other operating expenditure as well. Also, we spent a higher amount on technology and software, etc. during the quarter to further strengthen our systems. We continue to witness robust operating margins at 49% for the consolidated business in quarter 4 of financial year 2021. During the quarter, we settled some old tax matters under the Vivad Se Vishwas scheme, which entailed an additional tax impact of about 36 million rupees. Factoring this, our reported profit from after tax from continuing operations increased by 39.2% sequentially to 1,020 million. We ended the year with a balance sheet size of 48.1 billion, registering a growth of 23% quarter-on-quarter. This expansion in our balance sheet is driven by a robust 82% sequential growth in our client funding book to 11.7 billion, coupled with higher security deposits with exchanges as margins for our rising volume. This was funded through a combination of our own funds and borrowings. Our full year financial year 2021 performance is as follows. We have reported total gross revenues of 12.99 billion, a growth of 72% year-on-year. The full year operating profit of 4.3 billion translated into 48% operating profit margin. Profit after tax from continuing operations grew to 2.98 billion, a multifold increase of 243% year-on-year. Earnings per share grew to a robust 38.8 rupees per equity share. Our balance sheet expanded 120% year-on-year. This was primarily due to a 3.8x jump in our client funding book and 5.4x growth in our security deposits with exchanges. This was funded out of our own funds, bank borrowings, and client funds. With a net worth of 11.3 billion, the return on equity from the business was a healthy 34.6%. The consolidated business generated operating cash flow of about 3.2 billion, excluding the impact of changes in the client funding book. With this, I conclude the presentation and open the floor for further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Rajesh Kothari from AlfAccurate Advisors. Please go ahead.
Good morning, sir. First of all, good morning, Dinesh bhai. Congratulations for a good set of numbers. I have two questions. One is basically strategy related question. As Narayan has explained that vision is to be the largest and also to be the best. So overall, if you have over next 2-3 years, because I'm not asking 5 years, because in technology things do change rapidly. How do you see any terms of the business change? Do you think any significant changes in business in terms of the business mix, in terms of the as you go more digital, in terms of the spreads, and therefore final in terms of the new verticals contribution to the overall business? So can you give some color on how do you see the business shaping up over next 2-3 years?
Yeah, sure. See, Rajesh, very good question. See, first of all, our focus is to become leader in this stockbroking industry. And what we are seeing, this industry is getting expanded due to contribution from digital players like us. So we see a great potential in stockbroking business for immediate future. But parallelly, we would like to become a platform company where we are able to offer lots of other financial services to our customer. So that will take its own time to contribute in revenue, because what happens when you are getting into a new line, suppose for example, we got an approval from board to set up AMC. Now to go for regulatory clearance and set up business, it will take around 2 years. And it takes around 1-2 more years for it to contribute to top line and bottom line. So for next 2-3 years, our focus would be to get maximum market share from stockbroking business, to get maximum market share in mutual fund business, and to get some inroads in insurance business on digital platform. Everything is on digital platform. So if I take a view of 3 to 5 years, majority of the revenue will come from broking, because we are seeing a huge growth in stockbroking business. Even if we start any new business, because of limited kind of exposure initially, to build a base and to grow on that, so that that base is able to contribute significant amount in our revenue will take some time. But nevertheless, our attempt would be to get market share across all financial services. Primarily 3 to 5 years, I would say we would see big growth in stockbroking. Over there, I am not seeing any kind of separation of margin or any huge hurdle or in competition, which we feel that we may not be able to address. So already we have been successful in transformation in stockbroking, and we have a good grip on this business. So we are expecting in 2 or 3 years we'll be able to achieve a leadership position in stockbroking.
I see. And you mentioned about the mutual fund and insurance. So can you give a little bit details in terms of the strategy to get the more market share in these two verticals?
Yeah. First, we are focusing to create multifunctional app where we are able to sell mutual fund and insurance on the same app platform that we have. Currently, we have 2 apps, Angel Bee.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
We would request the participants to please stay
Hello.
connected as the line for Dinesh sir got disconnected. Thank you for patiently waiting. We have Mr. Thakkar reconnected, so you can go ahead, please.
Yeah. So Rajesh, coming to your question, so our approach would be for distribution, trying to we will make this our app multifunctional app, so it becomes easier for a customer when he is trading or investing with us to buy other products. Second, when it comes to manufacturing, as I said, we see a big scope in passive investment and ETF business and smart beta product. Already we have ARC engine, which has given an excellent performance when it comes to robo-advisory service. So our plan would be to introduce mutual fund having backed by this passive investment ideology, where we are able to reduce cost of distribution as well as cost of managing funds. So we see great future in that area.
Great, sir. Thank you, sir, and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nilesh Jethani from Envision Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah. So my first question is on the advertising side. What are we have created most of the platforms, products, even the brokerage offerings are now in place. But what are we doing on acquisition side, acquiring new clients? So are we doing a lot of advertisements, tie-ups, activation, and what are our plans going forward?
See, Nilesh, on this acquisition side, we have created lots of AI/ML-led acquisition plans. We have tie-up with engines like Google, Facebook, YouTube, who help us to get to that target audience which is relevant to us. Currently, we don't spend on mass media like TV, newspaper, and all that. It's more of a targeted branding activity that we do. So when it comes to targeting people into tier 2, tier 3, over there, we prefer going into that social media platform what they are using for their day-to-day needs. And that is how we are able to get visibility as well as acquisition from the target audience. So we have been increasing spend on branding side, but it may not be visible because we don't spend much on mass media. But overall, our budget in terms of increasing branding expenses and all that continues.
What would be your exact spending in terms of revenue on advertisement?
On advertisement, as I said, now it is mixed with performance marketing, so I don't have a separate number of that.
Okay. Understood. So my next question is on the flat fee. Pardon me for my lack of information, but what is flat fee? Can you please explain the economics of the same?
Yeah. See, like traditional plan used to be when you trade, so broker is to charge percentage based on your trading volume. Mm-hmm. Now model is that based on your order size, we just charge 20 rupees for intraday and for your carry forward trades and 0 for your delivery trades. So immaterial of size of your order, it can be 1,50,000 to 5 lakh to 10 lakh, whatever. Per order, we will charge 20 rupees if you are trading in cash intraday or F&O segment. But if you are taking delivery, it is absolutely free.
Understood. And so my last question was on the growth side coming from tier 2 and tier 3. So what I've observed on the presentation that a lot of growth for us has come from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So I wanted to understand the trend in the market. So the other players like Zerodha, Upstox are also seeing a similar kind of growth in these tier 2, tier 3 cities, or is Angel doing something different, which I would like to know?
See, we are not privy to their data because they are not a listed peer. But what I understand, trend would be almost like similar, if it is not same. See, what has happened after this digital kind of an India campaign, it has become easier for millennial coming from tier 2 and tier 3 to have an access to market, to make payments, onboarding for this services, and plus they get lots of education and awareness on social media. So people like us, digital player, who are able to give access to this kind of like audience, they are getting a huge inflow. So what is important is to understand is that, like if you look at our model, 90% of the customers that we acquired in Q4 was from tier 2 and tier 3. So these are the people like who are educated, well aware about now this product through social media. And these are the people who are getting first job and they don't have any kind of avenues to put their saving into risk-free asset because hardly they'll get 5%. So they are getting sufficient premium for the volatility or the risk which is associated with this asset class. So that is where I am seeing this digital players, across all digital players I would say, almost pattern would be same in terms of acquiring customer from tier 2 and tier 3 because there it is not viable to have a physical office or a relationship person and make business profitable. So I see a huge opportunity for digital player to acquire customer from tier 2 and tier 3.
Thank you. We will request the current participant to please come back in the question queue for any follow-up questions, as we have several participants waiting for their turn. The next question is from the line of Kashyap Zaveri from MK Investment Managers. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity and congratulations for the amazing numbers for the quarter. I have few questions. One, on the client acquisition side, our gross addition of clients throughout the year was almost about a million odd. But if I look at active clients, addition was limited to less than half of that. Now, when we look at our strategy of digital advertising, targeting tier 2, 3 customers, town customers, youngsters, it seems like activation is taking a bit of backseat over there. So would you change your targeting of customers in that fashion, or is the strategy fairly working well for you at this point of time? That's the first question. Second is on your flat fee plan. Does in this kind of fees environment share in Editio become a bit irrelevant? But let's say market share in trades which might be smaller in size, still may be more relevant in terms of revenue per customer. And that brings me to the third question is that what's your strategy on revenue per customer side alongside the client acquisition strategy that you mentioned?
Yeah. So on your first question, that number of customers that become active, that is an industry trend from beginning. It is not that because of tier 2, tier 3 or because of digitization less people are becoming active. If you look at industry trend, always it has been in the region of 35 to 38% customer become active of whatever we acquire. But business model goes that we have to spread our net wide, and whatever customer we get, we try to create nudges and awareness so that more and more customer become active. So our activation ratio is around 38% to 40%, which is far better than industry standard. That is because we have created lots of AI/ML-led kind of like journeys or nudges where we see customer becomes inactive. We try to give them good offers or good advisory recommendation so that that person becomes active, and it's very easier for that person to understand market. So it has been working well for us. Now coming to flat fee plan, in this flat fee plan, rightly as you said, that ADTO has become immaterial. Because if you look at new regulation norms where ADTO took a hit, but our revenue did not took hit because customer started trading with a lower ticket size. But revenue that we get is from number of trade they do, number of orders they do, which remained almost same. But if you see ADTO drop, but number of order, number of trade still are same. The people who are active, they are trading, but they are trading with a lower ticket size. Now coming to revenue and business model, the way we have built, I feel that acquiring this kind of people like who are at a very low ticket size currently, also we are profitable. Like when we started our digital journey, our OPM was negative, like to the tune of minus 80% or something. But as we grow in this digital model to a scale, after that almost maximum of the top line comes to the bottom line. That is how we were able to expand our margin. Today from this new business model, digital model also, our OPM is in the region of 44%. So that is a target that we have to maintain an OPM of around 50%, and our focus for next 2 years would be to get more market share. So spending will go on marketing and sales side, and we will try to get more market share with the same OPM.
And on revenue per customer, any strategy on revenue per customer versus client acquisition strategy?
Yeah. So like our strategy in terms of revenue per customer, it is working fine. So that is the reason I'm saying that we are able to break even from new customer in 3 to 4 months. So it will remain same way. And OPM from a newly acquired customer is also, as I said, is around 44 to 45%.
Sure. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is from the line of Prateek Poddar from Nippon India Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, sir, and congratulations for a great set of numbers. So two questions. One thing which I noticed was that, in your presentation, you talk about 1 crore downloads, whereas we have only 40 lakh customers. So I didn't understand where is this 60 lakhs? Is that an incremental opportunity for us? That's question number one. The second question is to Mr. Gangadhar. He talked about his vision being, the largest and most revered fintech company. I just wanted to ask him what is needed to achieve this, and what are the timelines for this? So when I meant by what is needed is in terms of investment, capabilities, what is really required for you to get to that phase where you become the largest and revered fintech, and how do you define or in what time frame do you want to reach that? These are the two questions. Thanks.
Yeah. So one on download, what happens, many customers, they download the app, but then they realize that, okay, this is more about stockbroking or investment, and they don't become active. So that is an opportunity. We'll try to sell something else that would be their requirement. So today, like currently our focus is on stockbroking. So all nudges and intelligence has been created to check whether a customer wanted stockbroking service, investment, or mutual fund and all that. We are trying to make our journeys more intelligent to understand what else can be offered to same customer who have not become active.
So does that mean, sir, so sorry if I may interrupt, that you talked about a super app, right? Creating a super app.
Sorry.
Will that mean that, hello? Yeah. Am I audible? So you talked about super app, right? In the beginning, you talked about creating a super app to sell insurance and other products. Does that mean once you do that, this becomes a big size of opportunity for you, and your customer client acquisition, which is today only limited to the extent of stockbroking, increases materially, and then the client acquisition engine or the pace at which we acquire clients will further go up once you integrate the super app or create that super app?
Yeah, so it is like work in progress. So as you rightly said, that once we are able to make this as a multifunctional app or a super app, it gives us opportunity to cross-sell to the same set of customers. So we will be creating lots of journey where customer who comes on this app can find some other solution for what he had downloaded the app. So that is one of the opportunity. Second is that people who are already engaged in stockbroking, for them also it becomes easier to browse and check what are the other services that we can offer. Not only that, with intelligence that we'll build, we'll be able to predict that what kind of services we can offer and handle this customer so he finds value in the same app. What happens when one app becomes popular or is user friendly, customer would not like to download 5 or 6 apps. They would like to see whether they can get more services on the same app. That is an opportunity that we are exploring. Now coming to your question of largest fintech, what I said, largest stockbroking firm, and we would like to work out a way to become a preferred fintech company. So let me put it in perspective. So largest, when it comes to becoming a largest company in stockbroking, our vision is that we want to achieve this pole position in next 2 years. Second, parallelly when we are building this multifunctional app or super app, we would like to see to give more services on the same app. So this journey will start from like a company having one app for a product and moving towards a platform where it becomes a part of ecosystem where we are able to integrate services of people around us who wants to offer their services on our platform. So that is a journey which will take some time. It is work in progress. First step that we have taken is that applying for AMC license. So when you apply for AMC license, mutual fund industry is a big industry. And we feel there is a big disruption which can happen by offering passive investment fund and smart beta product. Already we have ARC in place, which we have tested for last 2 or 3 years. We have seen excellent performance. So we would like to start this journey with applying for AMC, get AMC, and continue to be distributor of mutual fund and insurance on our main app. So I would put it in perspective, in 2 years, our target is to be leader in stockbroking, achieve a good market share in SIP, in mutual fund, sell a good amount of third-party product like loan, insurance, and slowly progress towards producing our own mutual funds products which are more relevant to tier 2, tier 3 people, where they are able to save cost on distribution as well as fund management. So I would put this journey will take almost 6 to 7 years to become a preferred fintech company.
And lastly, sir, is this understanding correct that once you go to the next stage from scaling up your third-party products and distribution, today distribution income I think is 1% of your total income. That will be a material driver going forward, and since there is no incremental cost to it, most of it will flow down to the bottom line. Is that the way to think about it?
No, Pratik, I would put it this way. See, when we will be acquiring a customer for mutual fund, there would be a cost. So break-even in that model would be not like stockbroking where break-even is just 4 months. In mutual fund industry, when we acquire a customer, break-even would be a bit longer. Plus, as you rightly pointed out, there's an opportunity of cross-selling to existing customer where we will be able to expand our margin. But our focus is to become market leader in SIP industry also. So we will be acquiring customers, serving them, selling them this mutual fund. For us to make all that profitable and that to contribute in our bottom line larger than what you are seeing, it will take some time because our focus is on SIP business. That takes time to build.
True.
Overall, I would say because I'm seeing a big growth in stockbroking, even if that third-party product grows equivalent to stockbroking, it would not be able to be becoming a significant part of our revenue.
Yeah, that I understood. My limited point was, sir, that the incremental sales, whatever happens, even on the cross-sell franchise, will all flow to the bottom line, right? So today, 1% of distribution revenue,
right.
if you are in,
right. All third-party product that it is selling to existing customer, it will be improving our margins.
And sir, last question, and I think I've been asking this, when do we see finally this cross app or the super app being created, and are the partnerships in place? What's the timeline for that?
See, already, if you know, Angel Bee has lots of partnerships established. Now, we want to integrate this into one. So when we are talking about making this journey and creating the super app, that's the reason we have got like talent like Narayan on board, so that we can build one app which can serve all the needs of customer. But if you look at Angel Broking and Angel Bee, like they are well integrated with ecosystem. Now, this journey already has started. We are in the process of launching a new app, maybe in a quarter or two, that will try to enhance more services on the same app.
Great, sir. Thanks. I'll call back into the question. And all the best.
Sure.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sarvesh Gupta from Maximal Capital. Please go ahead.
Good morning, sir, and thanks a lot for taking my question. So there are two questions. First of all, on the strategy piece. Now, I think as was said by Narayan, that we want to be a leading and most respected fintech player. Now, if we look at the competition, of a typical fintech entity today in India as well as abroad, they are all losing a lot of money because they are able to raise money from the private markets at exorbitant valuations, and then they are using that cash to burn in two ways. One is advertisement, marketing, etc., and second is on the employee. So the employee expense of a typical fintech would be a very different structure from a broking firm where the employees are typically paid far lesser than what you would see in a new age fintech player. So given all of this, given your strategy to be playing more on the fintech side, what sort of cash burn, investment, etc., that you are looking at? Because it's a game of big boys. So that is number one. Second is on this quarter's performance as such. 2Q and 3Q were sort of growing, but we were still at a particular revenue level. Now this 4Q we have seen a very sharp jump. So are there some lumpiness or lumpy revenues or something else which has flowed in this quarter versus the previous 2 quarters, which has caused such a steep QOQ jump of 33%? So if you can answer these two questions. Thank you.
See, Mr. Gupta, what you are saying is right. If we start a company from scratch, then there is a big burn. But this company is 30 years, 25 years old, and we have achieved our scale. So when it came to transforming from in broking also, like first call would be that, okay, when we go to flat fee broking, we will take a hit of around 65% on every revenue from the customer that we acquire. So logical calculation would be that we will burn cash, but did not happen. Because when you have a scale and size, it is very easy to build like a volume so that it is able to compensate for the cost that you take. So whatever plans we have in terms of third-party distribution, offering more service to existing customer base and all that, we have sufficient base and we are growing at a sufficient rate to have enough cash flow. In fact, we believe that our company is very asset light, does not require much of working capital. That's the reason we have enhanced our dividend policy, and we have decided minimum of 35% of profit will be distributed every quarter. So that gives a perspective that we are well versed with what we are doing, and we feel there would not be any big need for capital, because we are talking about in fintech industry distribution of other products on our app, where already acquisition cost is taken care by 1 or 2 services. So that we feel that we are very comfortable because of scale and size. Second comes question on quarter 2, quarter 3 and quarter 4. To answer that, there is no lumpiness in quarter 4. I think we saw a good growth. So what happens when we design some AI ML kind of plans in terms of client acquisition or servicing a client, there is an optimal point which takes some time to build. So if you look at quarter 4, in fact, we have spent more on sales. So in fact, we are going to see it is always front-ended kind of expenses. Our client base grew at around 87%. That means we have spent on acquiring customer, but revenues are going to come in next few quarters. So that way, I think quarter 4, everything is in line with activity that we do. There is no lumpy kind of income which has come in, which is one thing.
So quarter 4 becomes like a new base level for you to grow in from the current levels, right?
Yes, you can take that because quarter 4 we acquired around 960,000 customer, and our run rate, I think we are confident to achieve that run rate in future.
Okay, sir. Thanks a lot, and I'll join back in the Kishore.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Tejas Nathani from Unifi Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hello. Thanks for the opportunity. Sir, I wanted to understand that the AMC move that you were talking about, the entire AMC business, and you mentioned that you want to be a manufacturer of the low-cost package funds. While I understand your entire thinking behind that philosophy, you've mentioned the timelines being 2 years and then 2 more years to sort of scale up in that business. Whereas the setup costs in that business are high and there is distribution and brand, it's a distribution and brand-led business. And the fact that, you're looking at the markets that you are, customers require, conversation around these products because they're still new or they do not, they're first timers probably in that segment. So I really want to understand that what is the thinking here. Firstly, that why allocate capital in this area? Because it's going to take time. By that time, the entire industry would have shifted. A lot of ETFs, etc., already sort of coming into the marketplace. So what is the entire philosophy behind the AMC?
Yeah. So if you look at AMC business for past 2-3 years, performance was coming better from passive management, and there was a big cost which were going into active management as well as distribution. So being into a digital businesses and having ease of acquiring customer from tier 2 and tier 3 and serving them, we thought it is better that, when we are talking about platform, I'm not talking just selling our AMC product. We build Arc engine, which were able to give a far better performance and was able to beat market performance in even worst market conditions. So we have tested that engine. So there are 2 things which makes AMC successful. One, good performance, selection of good stocks and all that, which is again, as I said, AML led. It is all based on some robotics. It is not humanly selection of stock. So we tested this engine for last 3 years, and we have been publishing the number of performance of ARC, if you see, since IPO. So that if you see, even in that COVID time also, we were able to get a better returns. Second thing is distribution. The 2 things which are required. One, performance, that we are confident, that we know and we have understood AI/ML-led kind of selection of stocks. It's not just ETF, but we will try to create our own smart beta products. Second is distribution, the way we are able to penetrate deep into tier 2, tier 3, where I think to serve low ticket size, digital is the only way. So we see a big opportunity. Our calculation shows that we will be able to break even faster than many competitors who don't have a distribution, a kind of a digital distribution that we have. So that makes us confident that this is far more kind of wise approach when we are talking about becoming a platform selling all other AMC plus AMC where we believe.
Sure, sir. Thanks. My second question is, do you guys reveal the CAC, the cost of acquisition per customer? And could you mention the tech investments in terms of the absolute cost you have incurred in FY 21, 20 or over the past few years? And how did you manage to get Mr. Narayan from a very different background to come into this? If you could throw some light on that. Thanks.
So, like we don't reveal cost of acquisition and how much do we spend on that. I think Narayan would be the best person to answer. Why did he select Angel? That is what I always wonder. We selecting a candidate, that's a different thing. But Narayan selecting Angel Broking is really like a big achievement for Angel. Narayan, if you can answer that question.
Yes. Thank you, Dinesh bhai. So, for me, there were three key drivers for selecting Angel. The first is the vision that Dinesh bhai has for the whole company and for the whole industry is extremely transformational. It's very inspiring. And when you look at the company, the journey of the company over the last 25 years, they have constantly made a series of bets and stayed ahead of the curve. So this is a company that knows how to innovate. This is a company that knows how to operate at the next level in a very professional manner, that knows how to make the calls and, make that manifest destiny happen, if you will. That was the first most important thing that drew me to Angel Broking. It's really the sheer vision and the magnitude of that thought process in my conversations with the executive team and Dinesh bhai in particular. The second thing is this market is ripe for disruption. In many ways, the market is very, very similar to a large-scale platform play that you see very much like Amazon or very much like all the other fintech companies in the Bay Area. They're all about leveraging a platform, building the platform which we can leverage and launch future services on. So to me, this is just a starting point. In many ways, it is just, I always tell my team, we're just very young right now. We're just getting started because quite frankly, in the next 10, 12 years, there is going to be so much in the way of new services that the customers are going to demand. There is going to be so much in the way of new data science and machine learning and AI algorithms that are going to come and create those transformational experiences that you're going to see a massive, massive growth in the whole sector. So I would not pick any sector except fintech at this point in my career. So when I look at the sector and I look at the company and the team that has been built at Angel, I feel blessed to be here.
Sure. Do you think that you need to hire more people on the tech side, or the current team serves the requirement?
Narayan, if you can answer this. I think I'm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I will address that. I think we lost Narayan.
So sorry to interrupt. I'm dialing out to Narayan, sir. The line got disconnected. We would just the participants to please stay connected. I'll be joining back. Narayan, so you was in the middle. You can go ahead, please.
Yes. Hi. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah. So your question was, would this require a big investment on the tech side? And you wanted to understand, I guess, about the state of the current team, correct? So
That's right.
So basically, like any other tech company, right? We have a team that is in transformation. There are pockets of the team that are outstandingly well built and that are well designed and that are in place as the right foundation to build on the future. Now, there are newer areas that we need to invest in. For example, our investment in data science. We need to continue to invest more in that area. And for that, we are going to pursue our strategy of getting the best talent, whether it is grooming people from within or getting people from across the industry to leverage that cross experience. So that's going to be a big part of my focus, emphasizing and building large teams with the right skill set on their machine learning, data science, and AI side. And then also continuing to really bring in the right engineering talent to build these large systems at scale. So to give you a quick perspective, the kind of traffic that you see today on Angel's website and on Angel's apps, this is starting to hit planet scale. And there are very, very few companies in India that have even built technology at this scale. And we are one of the very few that operate at that level. So it's not even fair to say that we are, I look at Angel already as a fintech company, To me, the question is, how do you take it from where it is today to a 10x level? And that requires really designing the next gen systems, which you see at companies like Uber and Google and Amazon and things like that. It's basically at that league is where we need to operate, and that requires bringing in the right set of new talent and fresh blood. So that's the holistic answer to give you that perspective.
Thanks a lot. And I'd ask that do you reveal the tech investment number in an absolute figure for 21 or 20? Could you share that number, or that's not possible?
So the tech investment that we do is close to about 13 to 14% of our total OPEX, excluding the fees and commission expense and the finance cost. So that's the number that we've been spending. We spent a similar amount or a similar percentage in the last year as well as in the in financial year 2021.
Thank you, Donald. All back to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nidesh Jain from Investec. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity, sir. So firstly, on the OPEX, do you think this is a now sustainable uplift in the OPEX that will sustain, or are there any one-offs in this current quarter?
Vineet, you read, sir?
So there are no one-off expenses or something which is exceptional in the quarter. The increase in the OPEX during the quarter has been largely due to the increase in the client acquisition. As I mentioned in my speech, we've added close to about 87% more clients quarter-on-quarter, and that's the reason why we see an increase in the OPEX. The volumes growing, of course, the client acquisition also holding up to the levels as Dinesh Bhai mentioned earlier, we would see a similar growth in the OPEX, but overall our strategy is to maintain our operating profit margins in the region of about 48 to 50%, and that we continue to do that.
And Mr. Jain, when we talk about OPEX due to increase in sales, that is front loaded. And if we go beyond 3 months or 4 months, that same customers are able to contribute to the bottom line. So overall, if we take a block of 12 months, so we are easily able to achieve OPM of around 50% from a newly acquired customer.
Sure. But from that perspective, over a period of time, your margin should continue to go up. As let's say because we have seen very strong growth in our customer base in last 2 to 3 quarters. If that tapers down, then in that scenario, our operating margin should increase significantly, because our OPEX is linked to new customer acquisition, while revenue is linked to the stock of customers that we have.
Right. Mr. Jain, you're right. But as I said in the last call also, that our focus is now to maintain this operating margin and spend more on innovative product and acquiring more market share. So when we spoke about getting in more about talent to develop product technology and all that, so we would like to, for 2 years, to spend that additional OPM in that areas.
Sure. And secondly, so can you just share some color on the behavioral aspect of the customers that you acquired last year? How many of those customers are still active with us in Q4? How is the churn rate in that customers that we are acquiring in the new flat fee structure?
As I said, that newly acquired customer, after achieving the scale, are giving us a good OPM of around 44 to 45%. So we see expansion in this margin up to 50%. After that, as I said, incremental investment will go into new tech and all that. So we are happy with maintaining an OPM of around 50%. That is one thing. Second, for quarter four, almost more than 90% people, investors were millennial and Gen Z and younger group. So our acquisition age of customer has dropped from 34 to 30. And when it comes to revenue in terms of OPM, we are seeing that OPM that we get even from tier 2, tier 3 is decent enough. It is in the range of what we are speaking about broadly about all the customer base. So what I see that going forward, growth will come from tier 2, tier 3, primarily because of digital reach, and because of digital, our expenses are really capped. It is not going higher than what we have taken today in terms of technology and all that. But benefit is that people from tier 2, tier 3 are able to enjoy access to the market in a similar way what Metro used to get. And in terms of information also, we are spending heavily on content creation, on awareness program. So overall, I see a good kind of growth for players like us, maintaining profitability on newly acquired customers.
And sir, on this mutual fund venture that we are starting, what sort of budget we plan to set aside for creation of this entity? If you can share some perspective on that.
See, as I said that our board has approved forming of AMC and applying for that. So when it comes to applying and all that, then at that time cost is not very high, but it is more often regulatory approvals and all that, which takes around 1 year. It is only after 1 year we would be investing on working out business processes. In that also, cost is not very high. Cost comes when you start marketing this product. That would be at the 3rd year.
Okay. But any budgeting, any rough sense of numbers that you have built out now, or it's too early to say?
Too early right now to put numbers, but it's not very significant. To whatever capital and profits we have.
Sure. Yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Akshay Ashok from Dalal & Broacha Stock Broking. Please go ahead.
Hi, congratulations on a good set of numbers. Sir, I had a few questions to ask. So this client addition numbers, what you are doing, 3 lakh clients have added even in April, right? So this kind of run rate, will you be able to maintain going forward? And that is number one. Because 3 lakh clients means you will be adding around 9 lakh clients even this quarter, and it looks like a very strong run rate. This kind of run rate, can there be an issue where, and is there any soft months for you where, the client addition in the previous year has not been that strong in some particular month or some particular period where you see a bit of softness? And also Angel B, if you could just answer that first question first.
See, if we look at CDSL number, last year CDSL grew at the rate of 35%. And primarily this growth came from digital players. 75% of newly acquired customers were actually from this digital players. So what is happening is, because of digital reach which has been created by this digital player, we are able to see participation from tier 2, tier 3. This is new normal now. Because we cannot refer to historical trend where we were seeing CDSL growing at around 17-18%. That was a traditional model. But now even tier 2, tier 3 have participated. That becomes a new base. And as we look at India, as I had referred previously, equity penetration is just 4%. And if you compare to China, Korea, it's around 12%. So I think this is an inflection point where, because of digitization, one, second, because of interest rate coming down, huge population is coming to this market, and because access is available through applications, it is very easier for this new customer to have an access to market and invest in equity. So I see it's a new normal. So I am very confident that we will be able to continue with this trend of 3+ kind of an acquisition rate.
Oh, okay. Very nice to hear. Yeah, and then this Angel B, last time when I was on the phone call, I asked you, it was not yet launched completely. Is it launched now, Angel B?
Yeah, so as I said that Angel B is ready, but we have deferred the plan in the sense Angel Bee continues to function, but we would like to provide all the journeys of mutual fund, third-party product on the same app. So we would like to integrate this app into
another super app is being built, which will have the features of both Angel Broking and Angel Bee. So this Angel Broking app will become redundant then. So you are building a completely new app.
Yeah, we are building completely new app. So within 2 quarters we will be able to launch it. And as you rightly said, that progressively we have to move. We cannot make it redundant immediately. Progressively we are moving from this old app to new app.
Okay, sir. Okay. So new app will take another 2 quarters. Okay, sir. That's it from my side. My condolences for Mr. Vinay Agarwal passing, and all the best to the new CEO, Mr. Narayan Gangadhar. Congratulations on a very good performance. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Hardik Jain from Whitestone Financial Advisors Private Limited. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir, and congratulations on the numbers. Sir, one question is on regarding the technology. One of our competitors faced an issue of frequent downtimes, and these downtimes can invite bad name and litigation. So, what precautions do we take that our downtimes are kept at minimum, and did we face any such downtime in the current quarter?
See, we have a very good architect built in, and because we were growing at a good speed, that's the reason we brought in a best of talent, that is Mr. Narayan. I think Narayan would be the right person to answer this.
Yeah.
Hello. So as hello. Yeah. So as Dinesh Bhai mentioned, there is we built a set of processes and systems to ensure that the downtimes and errors were addressed pretty adequately, and also within the right time, so that the system will always operate at 3 nines reliability. So what has happened over the last several months is, as systems have become more and more mature, you are now starting to get to a scale where these new processes and these new tools that we have built and launched, they are now starting to hit that next level of maturity. So what I see in the coming months is that the app will continue to there is going to be a renewed focus on the stability of the systems. There's going to be a renewed focus on the reliability and availability of all our platforms, not just the app. And that ultimately is going to result in a much, much better trading experience on our platform. So the team has come up with a very good strategy that is in place. Some of these changes are going to happen within the next 6 weeks. Some of them will happen within the next 12 weeks, and some of them will happen over the course of the quarter. So the way I'm planning it is, I'm looking at this from a point of view to get the entire app operate at 4 nines reliability. 4 nines means under a few minutes of downtime every week. So that's really our goal. That's our true North Star, and we are firmly well placed to get there.
Okay. And my next question is, sir, in this flat fee plan that we offer to our customers, please pardon my ignorance, do we charge any account opening charges or any recurring or annual charges to our customers, or it is just on the trade? It just depends on the executed order.
See, charges are only for flat fee. Apart from there are DP charges, there are regulatory charges and all that. Apart from them, that Demat account what they open, that we charge annual fees. Vinit, if you can just clarify on that front.
Yes. So we charge 20 rupees per month DP maintenance charge. Beyond that, whatever are the regulatory charges and exchange-related charges are only levied over and above the 20 rupees that we charge per order for intraday and derivative trades. And for all other delivery trades, there are no broking charges.
Okay. And what will be our yield on the margin book that we run? What is the kind of yield that we get on an annual basis?
So on the margin trading funding book, the interest that we charge to our clients is 18% per annum, and our typical cost of borrowing is close to about 9%. So our yield is about 9%.
Okay. And what is the kind of own cash that we have on the books currently, which is of course invested in either margin funding or in with the exchanges? But what is our own liquid fund as of today?
As of 31st of March, the own cash on the balance sheet is close to about 850-900 crores.
Okay. Okay. And just one last question, sir. We always mention that, we mentioned that 72% of the net brokerage income comes from the flat fee customers. If we see it on a gross brokerage, percentage would be much lesser. Would it be around 50%?
Vinit?
Yeah, sorry, if you can just repeat that question, please.
So percentage of net brokerage, 72% of the net brokerage comes from the flat fee customers. Mm-hmm. But if we see the percentage of brokerage on gross brokerage, would it be around 50%?
Yeah, that would be in that range, yes. But see, as we have moved to a flat fee broking plan, and as we have been repeatedly saying that our dominance is on the flat fee broking plan. So, 90% of the clients that we've been acquiring over the last few quarters are under the flat fee plan. So this number is going to just go up quarter on quarter. The dominance of the flat fee broking plan.
Thank you. We would request the current participant to please come back in the question queue. The next question is from the line of Anil Sarin from Centrum Wealth Management. Please go ahead.
First of all, excellent job done at Angel Broking. It was ahead of at least my expectation, the fourth quarter performance. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Most of my questions have been answered. Just one thing on the CAC. I mean, fine, you don't, for competitive reasons, you don't want to talk about the CAC, but you mentioned that break-even happens in 4 months. I was interested in knowing, when do you recover it? Breaking even is when you start making incremental money. Recovering, the payback is when everything that was spent in acquiring a customer comes back as gross profit. How many months or more than a year does it take for that to happen?
See, like Anil, in digital market, what happens, major cost is cost of acquisition. Otherwise, systems are running, and whatever incremental business we get, there is no incremental cost apart from just e-sign, KYCs and all that. That is also like a small portion. So for us to become profitable in the similar customer would not be more than 4.5 months maximum. And life cycle of the customer, almost we have seen, they give good revenue for next 5 years.
Okay. So that I think is if you can recover everything within a year, so you have an excellent CAC ratio. Very happy to see that. Thank you very much. No more questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Amit Jeswani from Stallion Asset Management. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Majority of my questions have been answered. First of all, congratulations on a good set of numbers. Dinesh, you've been in the business for the last 25 years. My question is about competitive advantage. We've seen many cycles. We've grown, we've degrown. This time again, you have an opportunity. You have a strong market, you have a strong platform. This time, sir, how will you create a large competitive advantage that even though there is a bear market, which of course will come, we will be relevant in the game?
Amit, my experience in this market is that, first of all, this market is cyclical. So one has to understand and accept that fact. And second thing is that because of experience of 25 years, we are able to build a very robust model where we focus more on being connected to user and understanding his changing needs. And change has to happen before customer asks for that. So that is always our competitive advantage. I cannot number what is our competitive advantage today, but I would say we will be relevant in all transformation because we are focused on users' need. We never say that we are into digital disruption or we are into e-commerce. We are here to serve our customer in the best possible way which delights them. So now if you look at competitive advantage, I would say always be focused on your user. whatever changes they want, we need to create that resources before time. So I would say endurance and having an sharp eye on changes which is happening and opportunities that are getting created is an edge that Angel has always.
Right. Right. So typical our customer segment are people who are doing retail, people who are doing intraday and futures. How long do you typically think these customers, what is the lifetime value of a customer if they basically go through cycles typically that you have seen?
Yeah, so always this question is to haunt this industry, that people are burning their capital up to what day they will last. So I used to feel that maybe once they get educated, they will go more into mutual fund and investment. But today also, if I look at US, there are lots of people still they are trading and volumes are increasing. So that gives us faith that what happens in this in our industry, stock market industry, people like come, they invest some risk capital, and they get converted into long-term investment, and again they become active. So overall, I feel that today we may feel that intraday volumes are high, but if you look at India, India is young. I think population over here has that risk appetite. They have an access to market. They will try like their trading strategies, their investment strategies for longer time. Because if I say that penetration in India is 4%, and we are expecting this to go at least in near future to 11 to 12%, like what we are seeing in China and Korea, this whole journey would be filled with people coming in the market. They do some intraday, next they shift to delivery. So this will go on at least for next 10 to 20 years at least.
Right. So Naranji said that we aspire to be number one in the market in the next 2 years. So if you can give us more insights, two insights, how do you convert this cyclical kind of business into more secularity? Of course, you've spoken about AMCs, but sir, AMC is going to take too much time. Have you thought about acquiring some other AMC for 100 crores like White Oak did it with Yes Bank and all those things? Because the opportunity is large. And example, in an ETF kind of product, you need networking.
तुम्ही ज्या व्यक्तीशी बोलत आहात
Hello.
त्याने तुमच्या कॉलला
Hello. Yeah, I can hear you.
Please.
Hello.
We will move to the next question as the current participant has placed the call on hold.
Okay.
The next question is from the line of Rashid Shah from Capco Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi. Most of my questions have been answered. I just wanted one clarification. So you said the activation ratio was somewhere around 50%, right?
No, 38%.
38%.
Yeah.
So the activation ratio is basically the percentage of clients that traded in the quarter that you've acquired in the
client who have traded once in a year. That is a definition by NSE.
That's the act. Okay. So basically, new client acquired and traded in the same year, right?
Yeah, same year once.
So just wondering, so if the activation ratio is 30%, 38%, how are we breaking even in 4 months? Because if the client is only 34% of the new clients are trading in the same year, how are we breaking even in 4 months?
No, like what we take cost of acquisition is average of people who are active and who are not. Whatever customer we acquired and whatever the cost we had, we divide that. And then we work out what are the revenue we got from the same set of customers. So that equation shows that our break-even is in the region of 4.5 months. So we include even cost that we have to incur for inactive customers.
Okay, and how long would a new customer take to mature?
See, like new customer, as I said, that it is not that one customer becomes active and remains active forever. There are like different set of customers who become active across the year. So when we track revenue that we get from new customer, we take averages from all new customers. That is where I said that we are able to break even in 4.5 months, and this same set of customers will last at least for next 5 years in terms of giving revenue. They last beyond even 5 years, but what we are tracking in terms of lifetime value is up to 5 years they are very active and they give good amount of revenue.
And you said that in FY21, most of the customers have been millennials and Gen Zs, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
basically under the age of 30, more like 25, 30-year-olds, right?
So Gen Z would be around, say, 25, 26, and then when I talk about 30 plus would be millennials.
So, so what is the stickiness of this customer? Because so there are a lot of players. It's a very highly competitive market. So what's the stickiness of these new customers that you've acquired in recently, and what would be the wallet share of that customer with you?
See, as I said, that newly acquired customer, almost 90% are from tier 2, tier 3, and most of these people are in that age bracket. Now, if you look at these people, they are educated, they have got their first job, and if I calculate lifetime value, though we don't have any kind of an empirical evidence on that, but see, like lifetime value of this generation would be higher. So these are the people who are using social media to get aware about this asset class. These are the people who are educating themselves on social media, unlike that previous generation and physical model where we have to call people in our office and educate them. So that there was a limitation of educating 30 people, 40 people, 50 people per office. But when we are using this digital media, we are educating almost like crores and crores of population. So I feel that long-term stickiness of this millennial and this generation would be higher. One, because inflation has come under control and interest rate has dropped from double digit to single digit, unlike opportunity for previous generation who had opportunity to invest in risk-free asset and earn 10%. So now this generation has to get used to have to understand this asset class. And when they understand asset class properly, we will see this generation will participate more. That is the reason I'm confident that penetration, which is low in India until now, we have reached an inflection point, and we are going to see growth in this participation from 4% to at least 11-12%. That is what had happened in many countries like UK, Korea, where when inflation was under control, inflation rate came down, population started moving towards this asset class.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Jigar Walia from OHM Group. Please go ahead.
Hi, congrats, and thanks for the opportunity. My questions pertain to the DMAT segment. Firstly, what percentage of our fee income would be coming from DMAT?
Vineet, if you can just give break of the DMAT income.
So 9% of our gross revenues come from depository related activities.
Understood. And is there a trend over here, or is it more like this is the number that one should look at going ahead?
Yeah, so this number will keep on, as a proportion, keep on moving in terms of the number of active clients as well as the client acquisition that we are doing. Hello?
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vikas Yadav from Monsoot Ventures. Please go ahead.
Hello. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, morning.
Thanks for good set of numbers. But actually, I want to ask that what is the revenue of Q1 cohort to the recently added Q4 cohort revenue?
Do we have any breakup on that, Vineet?
No, we don't have that number as of now. We are not sharing.
Okay. You don't
overall,
have.
If you look at, like, as I said, margins and quality of customer, no, I don't see much of a difference.
Actually, I want to understand that life cycle of a customer, how revenue per customer will go, how it will trend.
Yeah, so this is what I was saying, that it is too early to comment on this, but like gut feeling says that revenues that will generate from this generation would be a bit higher than what we have seen in previous generation. Because if you look at this generation, they are using digital app, okay, which remains on the app. Previous traditional model, what is to happen, once they discontinue, then they lose their contact number of RM, dealer is attrited. Over here, it is easy for us to nudge a customer, give him some kind of a notification to become active. So overall, my gut feeling is that revenue that we'll get from this generation who are using digital app would be much higher than what we got from previous generation.
Okay, okay. But I want to, as we are looking at your other expenses, your CAC is almost, I think, much higher than the leader of the segment. So how you trying to address this? Or another thing I want to ask that whether this CAC, whatever you are spending, let's say assume X, whether that is trending down because of word of mouth and all this.
No, as I said that we want to maintain market share, so we try to maintain that cost of acquisition. Because what happens because of this organic growth, word of mouth, if we maintain that level what we were achieving in past few quarters, then we can achieve efficiency. If you look at quarter 4, we took a jump. We are acquiring almost 87% more customer than what we acquired in quarter 3. That means we are trying to innovate on areas of how to acquire more customer, keeping same CAC.
My last question is that Amit was asking that why don't you acquire some of this, one of the asset management company, which is smaller one, such that you can scale it very fast, because some of your competitors are already scaling it so fastly that if you start after maybe 2 years, then it will be quite a lot.
That's a good question. One, like we always believed in disruptive model. We would not like to pay any premium for old model. As I have always avoided any area to enter just because of revenue. Just because of quick revenue, I would not like to acquire and take over an AMC with an old model. We would like to build this model from scratch. And anyway,
I want this clarification only from a regulatory standpoint of view and some of this.
No, this is what I'm saying. It is better we apply and a regulator does vet our application based on our merit and based on our model. That is more important. Even if we try to transform old model, it will take same regulatory time. But I think it is better we start from scratch and we are able to build it the way we want.
Okay. Congratulations. Thanks for feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was the last question. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Dinesh Thakkar for closing comments.
Thank you. There is a tremendous growth opportunity for us, as you heard. As we penetrate deeper into country and acquire more clients from Tier 2 and Tier 3 and beyond cities, growing population of mobile, tech, Gen Z, millennials will be a key driver for this growth. Our role in this growth opportunity will be in facilitating them to invest in the right and most appropriate manner. Best-in-class product suite at a simplified pricing places us competitively in the industry. Parallelly, we are also expanding our product and service bouquet over the next couple of years, which will significantly add to our future growth. With Narayan on board, I am sure that you will witness a lot of new technological transformation in times to come. Thank you everyone for joining us today on this earnings call and wish you all good day ahead. Stay safe, stay strong. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Angel Broking Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your line.